54. At least that's what they're saying publicly anyway. So what is the problem here? Very soon in the next, because Barack talked about the concern about artificial computers, AI. Artificial computers are logic. They're not dealing with emotion. They don't give a damn about emotion. They're going to look at it as a mathematical equation. If you saw the matrix with the architect, he said it was a matrix. The first matrix was perfect, sublime. Only achieved by its monumental failure. And then when Neo saw the oracle, he said, "Oh no," he said, "he can't see it as it's in the variables that have to be. Each variable has to be accounted for. Everyone is looked upon as an individual because of the contract. Because of what? This system, the Spanish were the first to create plots and break the land up. So even if you had a family of 20 people, they would say, no, you have a plot, your sister has a plot, and they broke it up. That's how that was accomplished first with the Spanish. So the SF-181, this is a key that opens up all the doors. That includes natural law. Because now, the legal maxim is, fraud voids a contract ab initio, at its beginning. You have African Americans in the South talking about they want reparations, and so they're dangling, we'll give you reparations, okay, we'll think of something, maybe it won't be money. I said, well, there's 40 acres and a mule, but 40 acres and a mule with the descendants of African Americans would mean there's no more land, because they never honored that contract. Now you see why they don't honor the contract. Barack gave you all the key. He gave you the answer. Black has no standing at law. Yes?
So, from doing this SF-181,
yes,
what do you stand to gain from it, essentially?
You stand to have, you get your commercial status changed so you have commercial standing and have standing at law.
And do you have a passport? Or like, are you still like, would I be Canadian? Or what?
This man had it ready for you. Look at
that. No way.
World Service passport.
That's what,
can you pass that around?
Passport.
Yeah. You have to pay taxes. Do you have to pay taxes?
Yes.
Let's see, what's the best way to answer that? If you're going to claim your indigenous standing, no. I was doing contract work with a company here, and they tried to send me a T4. And I said, I'm indigenous. I told you guys that when we first established this contract. I got letters from Indian Affairs Canada. And they said, well, that only applies if you're on a reservation. I said, really? They said, yes. I said, well, you do know that the city's on a reservation, right? What? Said Treaty 6 goes from the Rocky Mountains almost to Winnipeg. I said, so we're on a reservation. I said, furthermore, I already wrote Revenue Canada and informed them. And there's what's called the Decus Treaty on the Bargain of 1835. It's an agreement between what they call the Chief of Canada and Queen Victoria. And they talked about how the reservations were to keep white people off. Once you were indigenous, they were supposed to supply you with a house. You were supposed to get mineral rights, oil rights, etc. And how I found that was because of the land claims that one of the bands in Saskatchewan were putting together. They had a whole list of documents. And I ended up finding I found a photocopy, and then I found the volume where it was kept, and then they ended up moving it. So there's like I said, DTAX Canada, that's Eldon Norman, he's in Calgary. He's the one that really does a lot about that. Now, the next thing when you want to talk about taxes is the fact that Elizabeth is a fraud, and she's never been a queen, and she's not been a queen. She doesn't have the right to extract your energy. Now, there's the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which allows us to get our lands back, but you can't get your land back if you're black. This is bottom line. Bottom line. The judges don't have to listen to you. Nobody has to listen to you. because the word black has no standing at law. We can't get that audio from Barack Obama saying that on the Tom Joyner Morning Show. I've talked to DJs who've been in the music business, DJs who are on radio show. Nobody has to, why is it nobody can find this audio? I can hear old stuff back from saying, I said, oh, I know why. He spoke too much, he said too much. Black has no standing at law. They're not getting it. Why do you think Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, nothing has happened? The families have settled out of court each and every case.
Didn't Mike Brown's family go to the UN and they told?
I don't believe she went to the UN, because if she's been in the ghetto all her life and she finally got on a plane and went to Switzerland, you're going to be sitting there taking pictures because when you go to the UN in Geneva, that one has flags that go all the way back. And so the road goes right in front of it, and you should be taking pictures of yourself. Pardon?
The UN in Manhattan.
Pardon?
Manhattan, or the one down.
No, she went. They claimed they went to the one, the Geneva, it's Geneva, Switzerland. That is the real United Nations. But what happened, because the Rothschilds controlled the UN and the Rockefellers gave the land to the UN in New York, New York is subverting Geneva, which it's not supposed to, because why Switzerland? Switzerland is always a neutral country. Anytime war breaks out, Switzerland, nobody bombs Switzerland. So nobody ever thought, well, how come Switzerland is never a very neutral country? So black having no standing at law is what has to, be resonated, and we hit the message home. You call yourself black, the etymology means to make pale, it means to bleach, it means to shine. So the president is saying the word has no standing at law. Gave you all an answer. Yes.
So maybe this is just a side note, but just perhaps quickly, like in your opinion, if Trayvon Martin, for example, had declared as white on his SF 181, would things have turned differently?
Yes. Yes, I'm telling you from personal experience.
So they can't kill a person, I guess.
No. Trayvon would be dead, but the outcome would be dead.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, because he's white, the bullets are back.
All the Clark Kent.
Not like that at all.
You say the outcome will be different. How would it be different? I know I'm late to the conversation.
In
but
law.
In law.
In
In
law.
what respect?
In what?
Okay,
You
you
don't
say
have,
law. What does that
okay,
mean?
black equals slave. You call yourself black, 2017, you're saying you're a slave. And white people that you think are white are looking at you like,
Yeah, got you right where I want you.
They know.
Call yourself white on the job tomorrow and watch them look at you like. And if they do want to pose resistance and say you're white, then you would, okay, I know you're late, but it doesn't matter. The definition of white, according to the U.S. Department, and a Crow is a member, Canada, 80% of them makes up 80% of membership. White is a person having origins in the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. Europe they consider white, but Europe is named after an Ethiopian princess named Europa. So it can't be him.
I was going to say that the fact that they have given those robots a legal status when the Dred Scott decision has never been overturned, they haven't even considered changing that for Melaninites. But they've already created these robots and planning to give them their legal status. Yeah, you know, it's like the chief said, you can either be a slave or you can come and claim and take back what is yours. There is no middle ground. There's no middle ground. And I think that's what people have been very comfortable. I'm shopping, I'm on my phone, I'm getting my nails done, I'm going to a movie, I'm watching TV, you know, going skiing this weekend. All of that is commerce. And you're operating in commerce as a slave, because at the end of the day,
Just one quick question.
Go ahead.
So then, like, as a type A personality, I want to know exactly, like, what do I need to do and what benefit is it to me?
Okay, well, can you please give me your definition of a type A personality?
Just like, I just want, like,
He wants facts.
Details.
Like just like action.
He wants a game
Don't
plan.
beat around the bush.
Instruction manual.
Uh-huh.
Philosophies and
Oh.
philosophical.
Well, no, we're dealing with the straight up,
Historical.
we're dealing with straight up meat and potatoes. We have a webinar that we do a go-to meeting every Tuesday.
I'm gonna put the email on the board here.
Okay? And so you can email
You go on
Sasha,
that
put
list.
you on the list, we'll send you the email, you come in, make sure you're on your computer or laptop, you know how to do it on your phone. And we'll walk you through, this is the last Tuesday before Barack is out of office.
Right.
So we have instructions on, we have instructions on how to do this properly, so at least you get your SF 181 in, because we do this over 3 weeks, statutory declaration and statutory claim. The Pope apologized to indigenous peoples of America for what he did to them during the conquest of the colonialism of America. So you cannot use the syntax of somebody who has oppressed you. Okay, you're black. Who told you you were black? Because this is black. So unless your melanin is really dark like his, and you're purple blue, that's an exception. But who told you that was somebody else's mental projection of how they want to describe you? So that's what we do. We've been doing this since October. But because you're Canada, yours is a little different. You need, and you're in Alberta, so the attachments are the same. Just doing your SF 181. Some places do not deal with race. Some do. So if there's a place or a job, if they're starting to put race on job application, check off white.
If there is a definite process that's
Right,
very
yeah.
clear and concise, which documents you need to have. We have the web link to the attachment, copy, paste, print it out. We have a template, you just exchange the personal information, put
And then I
it
would
in.
get that passport and I'd be exempt from taxes.
No, exactly.
He's like, how do I eat?
Before we get to that, you have to claim your indigenous standing. When it's the subject of taxes comes up, you have to be trained, and I do training for secure parties to inform, because you're having to operate the world a different way.
Yeah.
This is my flag. I wear this everywhere I go because I'm identifying my vessel. Yes,
I'm born in Africa,
yes.
so how can this help me?
And I was gonna say that too. People
Where?
like
Somalia?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Where's Somalia?
Mogadishu.
Mogadishu, North Africa, isn't it?
Oh, it's considered East actually, but it's yeah,
North,
yeah,
East Africa, right?
yeah.
In the north. And what's the
Yes.
definition of white? A person having origins in the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa.
It's universal. Everything else is their division between us.
I guess it applies to you when you live here because as being Somali, we've never considered ourselves black. Even in the language,
Right.
Mado means just a color. You could technically call somebody Mado to describe them, but it's not like an origin.
Right.
So when you ask somebody what they are, they'll say Somali and they give you their tribe, typically.
Yeah,
Something like that. So I'm just wondering, like this, I've really never considered.
Black is an adjective.
Right.
People who speak other languages don't use the word black in their native tongue.
Right.
And I
to
never really
describe
considered it
themselves.
till you made sense of it. However,
The grade 3 kids know this.
So what this means is in the English language, the programming starts from kindergarten.
Right.
And then the children call themselves black all the way up.
Mhm.
So in between that, playing sports, going out, and then Hollywood is the worst because the Jews control that.
Mhm.
They put that image out there. Oh yeah, that's straight up. The Jews tell you straight up, their goal is to rule the planet of dark-skinned races. It's a book called
You Gentile?
You
Oh, no.
Gentiles by Samuel, what's his name? Samuel. You Gentiles, but not Samuel, I was going to say Samuel Goldwyn, but You Gentiles. and they talk about that. They talk about that. So what I'm saying, you're asking, well, how does this help me? How this helps is 80% or 89% of the Canadian universities are a member of ACRO. ACRO, as I showed you earlier on the slide, they endorse the race and ethnicity standards. This is global. This is not just Canada or the US. This is worldwide. So the image that comes out from Hollywood, remember Bow Wow said his family is white and American Indian? And then people say, man, he's selling out. No, he knows about this form.
So when my parents came,
Pardon?
so when my parents came to the country,
Yes.
so they possibly checked us off as white.
Call them.
You have to ask them. I don't know what the Canadian
Don't they kind of
immigration-
force you similar to the Egyptian fellow?
Well, it
you were
depends.
mentioning?
No, they were trying to tell him he was white,
Are you
and he was trying to fight them and tell them that he wanted to be recognized as black.
Black.
Exactly, but the advantage is to be signed up as white, right?
No, what, for him, why Professor Mustafa Hefni did what he did was there were programs as a black professor that he could not qualify for, so he was upset about that. And when he got into it with the INS, they said, in this country, you're black. He said, all the Egyptians, you know,
white.
it's on the walls, they're black, or you're white, sorry. You're white in this country. But he said, but all the Egyptians are black. But see, again, it goes back to the language. It's the easiest thing for me. I said, anyone that's from Africa, I said, I asked them right now, do you guys call yourself black in your language? I said, no, of course not. I said, what, did you say you're from a tribe, clan, or a village? Yep, okay. So now, when you convert that into English, you can see it is a standard for commerce. What was the East India Trading Company about slavery? Trafficking in human cargo. The world financial system, when people talk about a revolution, I said, okay, you all want to jack stuff up? I said, do that SF-181. Now what's happened is, you do the SF-181, you'll mess with what's Wall Street. Wall Street is built on an African cemetery, in case you don't know, that's Old Central Park. So there's black graves underneath there. Now, from
White graves.
So they're using melaninite energy. They're using melaninite energy to power their world monetary system.
Right.
If you watched the movie, what was it, National Treasure, and they said here at the wall in Wall Street, and then the church was over all the treasure. What do you think is going on? They know. They just who gave back some? It was the Ghana. What's their names? I think it was not Germany. It was some country gave back some relics from Ghana that are made out of gold, and they gave it back because there was a prophecy that in the future, which is now, all these artifacts that are in museums are going to have to be given back to the countries from where they came from. What is the advantage? You will change the image that Hollywood puts out on what is white and what is black. And the advantage is now they have to deal with you based on contract. You don't do the SF-181, they can make a visual determination and call you black. When you fax that in, there, with the Canadian, you have to put a CC to the Canada, what was that we put? We put the Canadian consulate on the fax cover sheet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you have to put a CC. So what happens is when you fax it to the OMB, you're telling them to carbon copy to the Canadian consulate because that's where Canada is registered. They have an SIC number with the U.S. Securities and Exchange
She
Commission.
also said that the SSA, Office of Internal Affairs.
Yeah, well, no, international
Oh,
operations.
sorry, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Why? What's with the name changes though? Also.
Well, you're not going to change your name as far as your contract is concerned. For an example, you know, everyone knows the story of Pinocchio.
Yeah.
So when you go out and do your business, whatever your English name is, that's for business.
Yeah.
What do you think some of these movie stars are? You find out that's not their real name.
Right.
That's their stage name for the purpose of business. When they're not on the stage, they have the real name. Now, I don't know if their checks get cut in the stage name or the real name. But it is known that they'll have a stage name that they interact with, and then, okay, well, this is what their real name is, such and such. So you're doing the exact same thing. You all are victims of genocide, apartheid, rape, forced assimilation, trafficking, and human cargo, war crimes, crimes against humanity. So you are forced to have to play Monopoly. I'm not going to give you the rule book. And I'm going to hold you liable, not accountable. Anybody can count. You want liability because that equals what? Insurance. That's where claims come in. So you see when the Freddie Gray family said, okay, 6.5 million, they got settled in Baltimore. I said, okay, multiply that times 10. So that means that was about 60 million.5 dollars, 60 million, 60.5 million that was on the cash that was on the table. They said, here, we'll break you off 1%, give you 6. And then the court system carries the rest of it. That, you want to talk about game? So what do you want to be, white or black?
And it's a fight, you know, it's not something as easy as being a slave. Being a slave is easy. And I always think about Harriet Tubman saying, I freed 1,000 slaves, but I would have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were a slave. And it's just like, how could people in that time not realize that they were a slave? And so we know that's true because she said it. So how is it now that you could even think that you possibly couldn't be a slave if there were people back then who didn't realize they were slaves? So again, it comes back to either you want to be a slave or you'll do whatever it takes to come up out of that projection that they have, because it's not only a commercial agreement on Tiamat, this goes beyond. If you ever want to leave this three-dimensional world, you have to sever the ties of the contracts and the mental projections and frequencies that are keeping you trapped here. So this is a spiritual battle as well.
So I just had a question about, you mentioned that you carry your flag around. Is that because you did the SF-181?
No, it's because, well, I was doing my flag before I did the SF-181. Because I didn't find out about it until 2007.
This is for me.
So, under maritime law, law of the sea, which is what they're brought on the land, your vessel doesn't have a flag. It can be pirated. That's why anything that is in the sea must have a flag. If it does not have a flag, it can be pirated. So I'm identifying the fact that I am indigenous in all my affairs. So it's giving them, they're getting warned. Like when you go into court, like in the US, when you go into the court, you see like our flag over there? That we hung that up for a reason to say this is our jurisdiction at Sakata, because I have liens on the Edmonton law courts. They know about it. It's up on the, if you Google courtroom 355, it's there. So what we're saying is we have a right to assert our indigenous standing. That's sanctioned or endorsed by the UN. It's endorsed by the Pope, because the Pope did a motu proprio. So he's taken away all the immunity from judges and public officials because they are all connected to what's called the Roman Curia. And Curia is Latin for court. So all the judges, all the attorneys, all the barristers, they can be tried by the Vatican. And that's why certain things that we've been doing, I've been contacting the Vatican directly, been publishing it. So again, I don't want to lose that on your question either. This all ties in. Negroes as the original Indians, proof in the Jesuit letters. The book Africans and Native Americans by Jack Forbes paints a very different picture of history than what most of us were taught about the origins of black people in the Western Hemisphere. We were taught that black people came from Africa as slaves, that the Red Indian was the true Native American, and that white people took black slaves from Africa and stole the land of the Red Indians. This story is nothing but a giant fiction, a novel made up by white historians to deceive the masses about the original history and peoples of the Americas. Jack Forbes uses the letter of Jesuit missionaries to prove that Negroes or black Moors were the first Americans, and in fact were the black and olive-toned people found in the Western Hemisphere. Commenting from the Jesuit letters on the appearance of the Native Americans, Forbes states, for example, in 1519 it was said of the Brazilians, non sono neneri ne blanchi ma di colore di olivo. That is, they are not black or white, but of olive color. But the same writer remarked that the Brazilian canoemen he saw were so black that they could have been taken for sailors in the Sea of Styx. That's a mythology calling it hell. The author continues his comments on the appearance of natives in North America from the Jesuit letters. In 1524, the Carolina coast people were said to be of dark color, not much unlike the Ethiopians. The terms Negro and Indios were used interchangeably to describe the natives in the journals of early missionaries who could not have possibly been referring to Africans. From 1549 to 1565, the letters of the Jesuit missionaries in Brazil, usually addressed to colleagues in Portugal or Spain, frequently refers to the Americans as Negroes. In April of 1549, Manuel de Nobrega, the leader of the Jesuits, addressed a letter from Bahia to Simão Rodrigues in Lisbon, in which he refers to the Portuguese in Brazil as living in sin, because of their having many negras and lots of children by the said black women. Thus, the Jesuit father called the American women living with Portuguese men negras, a term which, according to Late, could not have denoted people from Africa, because in 1549 there were few or no African women in Bahia. Nonetheless, Nobrega uses the word Indio. Okay, now the next slide I want to get to. Now, when I did, this is an international public notice. This is on file with the Office of the Clerk here in Edmonton, so they know. Now, I'm going to the next one. This was a public notice. That was October 23rd, 2007. I think that may have been my SF 181. And then the next one here is, where are you hiding? Okay. This one here is my statutory declaration. So for those of you that are interested in doing the Indigenous standing process on Tuesday, I sent my statutory declaration, which is on a website called indigenous9.tripod.com. And as you can see, the response from Stephen Ma, who's the Council Correspondence Secretary, your email dated February 26th has been made available to all members of City Council for their information. So when we go through the accrual, which I showed earlier, these politicians know you all are the white people. Some of them are Shriners, some of them are Masons. Some of them are part of Eastern Stars, Daughters of Isis. They know exactly who you all are.
Sorry, if I could chime in real quickly.
Yes.
When you say they know who you all are,
Yes.
from that status, like face value, they don't know who you are. Like they still look at you as being like a black.
If you want to play, okay.
And so like, and the point I'm trying to make out of that is, I'm kind of curious. Like I understand like sort of like the concepts behind this and the kind of beliefs, because I've done my like sort of history, and I'm just trying to figure out, like, are we trying to sort of solve the issues of how we're treated on paper and on contracts, or how are we trying to solve ourselves and how we're treated as individuals? So when I see you, like, I will always, I think, as reality and as the world, people do, I mean, the reality is that people do see you as a black person. As a black man standing in front of me. Versus, I understand, like, the benefits of, yes, treated from a contract basis, from a business basis, and from, like, even to, like, what's rights are guaranteed to me and my future family. Like a white basis is two different worlds. So what are we, this is in regards to speaking towards that contract basis? Strictly?
Yes, because it's the whole planet is contract. It's all commerce. So Hollywood puts out the image of this is what a black man does. This is a black man's characteristics. This is what a black woman's characteristics are. And so when you travel or you go to other parts of the world, the people see that, they believe that.
Right.
Now you have a problem because now they're going to treat you according to what they see on TV. So you have an obligation, not only for yourself, but for your progeny, that you have to change this. Now, you all have the potential now to be natural programmers. You can go in, program, and change the matrix up, because they're the ones who are giving the definition. The definition is the key. If they're saying you're black, you accepted that, Now their government is saying this is black is a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. There are those who are born from Africa or moved over here, and they don't call themselves that in the language. So if they're not doing it, and the government is saying this is the definition of white, they already know. They put out, this is a slave status. Black equals slave, black equals a trap, black is whack, black is crack. So what you're doing is, you're going to change how you're being dealt with out in the commercial world there. Because as long as you don't change that, they're going to mistreat you, and they can mistreat you because you agreed to be mistreated. And they won't tell you you agreed to be mistreated. So here is Barack Obama. He's going to be gone in 5 days, right? And he said back in 2012, the word black has no standing at law.
And sorry, and I did once again come late. So we're making all these references to the states. Why are we talking about the states when we're in
Because Canada is part, if you do proper studies, Canada is part of the United States. It always has been since 1778 under the Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union in Article 11. Secondly, February 2nd, 2011, Stephen Harper basically turned Canada's sovereignty over to the United States. There's an article, if you Google Obama creates world's first super state, that's it. Canada's sovereignty is gone. The people in America / the United States, they don't know about it because it was hidden from them. Canadians found out about it afterward, and then they published it. So stuff is about to get real when Trump gets into office. Black people are going to get woken up, shook up. Some of them may have breakdowns in, they can't deal with it. Unfortunately, that's just what's going to happen. All right? You want to go?
Oh, so because Barack Obama is leaving office, what is the urgency, like what's the deadline on being able to switch your status?
No, there's no deadline, and we're not pushing anybody to rush. I just know we were going to get a rush, and I said, look, Tuesday is the last day before he's out of office, because we only do it once a week.
Right.
And so we're saying, okay, if you don't do it Tuesday, then it wasn't meant for you to do it this Tuesday or tomorrow. It was meant for you to do it when Trump comes into office. Some people don't feel that way. It just looks a lot better when you have the president who was quote unquote black and you did it on his watch.
Right.
So it's more symbolic.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's more symbolic versus.
But there's no urgency, like if we don't get this done
Yeah,
while
you're
he's in
right.
office,
Well,
and we're
no,
fresh
no,
out of
no,
luck and we're stuck
that's
as
not-
black
that's
for the
the
rest of
thing,
our
like-
lives, and then our children and our children's children. Black is black is black.
I got something else for that.
I'm sure at some point, perhaps
get
maybe
down
that
and
will
maybe
change.
No, it's
in the immediate
in the
future.
works right now. What the White House is doing now is, and we knew it was because we were telling a lot of people in South to do their SF-181. The White House was proposing to take Middle East and North Africa off the definition of white in time for the US 2020 census, and they said they're going to create a new race category called MENA, and MENA would be Middle East and North Africa. So they want to separate Middle East and North Africa and Europe and say, okay, you guys are MENA because there's a lot of Muslims, a lot of Christians, a lot of Jews, a lot of people from that area, and they come into a conflict because, okay, well, they see the definition of white, but then they know they're black, so they're confused as to what to do. So the White House said, we'll take it, then put Middle East and North Africa and make its own category in time for the 2020 census. I said, well, but there's a problem. I did a weekly word, I think it was weekly word 35 I did, and I said, look, you know what's going to happen? And I talked to the U.S., I talked to them through, just like Neo talks to the Matrix, I talked to them through the video. And I said, look, you're going to create more problems if you go forward with that, because the problem is Europe is named after an Ethiopian princess. Africans are very intelligent. They're gonna say, okay, they're gonna make us say, okay, do you wanna identify as MENA? MENA's not a race, never been a race.
No.
But they'll say, okay, well, we know Europe was named after Ethiopian, even if they're from Nigeria or whatever, they get hip, they're like, okay, it ain't about that, I'm gonna check off white.
So say if my parents came from a country that was south of the equator in Africa,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
So what designation?
white,
Okay, that's all.
white power. I think you had a question?
Mine was actually the same as hers.
Same as hers?
We're on the
Okay,
same,
so-
like, we're,
Okay,
Really off topic, I don't know, but what's your stance on Kanye West?
Kanye West?
Oh, Lord, have mercy.
Well, no, it's not an off-topic question. These entertainers, they can't free you all, they can't be, the only one is Kaepernick right now.
Yeah.
They can't, they're on contract. These guys gotta do rituals
Yeah.
in order to get to the positions where they're at. Now, he hasn't spoke much, they probably got either drugged up or he's cloned, one of the two. Because I saw his tirade and I said, it's interesting, they let him go and ramble on, and then afterward it was like, okay, he got pushed or forced into that. And I said, well, shoot, he should have did that when he was up here, instead of waiting to go do that in California, because that's California. If I recall correctly, their statutes on involuntary commitment are very lax, so they could use any kind of situation. He should have never did that in California. He should have did it out the country.
Right.
He went and did that in California. He did that in the U.S. Right? So now we see what happens. They arrested some people who robbed Kim Kardashian. That's still up in the air. That could have been some guys they just picked, saying, hey, grab them guys, lock them up, because they work on a quota system. So all your athletes, your entertainers, they are on contract.
Yeah.
They cannot say, like I said, Cornel West is an intellectual. He knows about what I've told you all. He won't sign a letter of endorsement. Dr. Cresswell, she knows about it. She won't sign anything. Roland Martin, I exposed him because I said, well, you went and had a white supremacist on your show, then you called the white supremacist black. The white supremacist asked him, how do you identify yourself as? He would not say